Welcome back to Schmo to Pro, the show where I treat my life like a real life let's play in my pursuit of playing football professionally. 2 weeks ago I had to go to Orlando, forcing me to miss a game, and in my absence the Outlaws put up a huge win against the Raiders with a final score of 32-10, giving us a 2-game win streak. So when I got back, every game was a must win if we wanted to make it to the playoffs, bringing us directly into our rematch with the Commandos. Yeah, the team that threw all over us a couple weeks ago. I decided to go with the Navy long sleeve and the Navy leg sleeve as the swag for this game. Getting out onto the field, I went ahead and started warming up, not knowing what type of game it was going to be. With all of our playoff pressure building up into this game, the tensions were as high as I'd ever seen them. The first couple of drives were nothing special. Steve, number 1, is playing out of his mind once again and has to be the league defensive MVP at this point. Our offense is sputtering, but we're seeing glimpses of it being put together once again with our quarterback playing well, but we just can't quite keep the wheels turning. My first punt came early and it was almost a disaster. As I'm looking over everybody, everything seems fine and all blocked up, so I was just gonna sit back and swing on this one. But as I was catching the ball out of the corner of my eye, I noticed number 4 coming off the edge scot-free.
Damn! Hey, we gotta block the edges, man!
I was pretty upset because the ball was supposed to go way further than that, but when you got a guy coming free like that, you don't have time to hit a perfect ball. You just kind of have to pray for a better bounce. I went to the sideline and got the guy on the edge coached up, but then we didn't punt again for the entire game. Minutes kept going, tension kept rising as our offense continued to spin its wheels. Eventually, it just completely boiled over the top and we had a meltdown. We argued with the Commandos, we argued with the refs, we argued with ourselves, heck, we were arguing with the fans. It was just too much all at once for the Outlaws. And worse yet, being in such a rush to get the ball off, I actually had pulled something in my kicking leg. I tried shaking it off at halftime, but couldn't really get rid of that tight feeling in my leg. But as awful as it was, the game did eventually end with a final score of 31-0 in favor of the Commanders. And with that went our playoff hopes and dreams. Everybody was defeated and it was just sickening being around. Coming back on Monday, I was trying to figure out how I was supposed to treat my leg. I knew what it needed, which was rest, but between making football content and prepping for next week, I wasn't sure when I was going to be able to get the rest that it needs to be 100%. But somehow, despite the pain, I was still able to get out 3 times this week and have some pretty good sessions. Then, on Friday, the Outlaws got some news that would completely change everything. The Raiders, the team we had defeated 2 weeks prior, had folded, meaning that they would forfeit their next games and their spot in the playoffs, opening up one more spot for your Outlaws, assuming we could win our game Saturday, taking us straight to that game, a must-win game against the Bengals. I asked you all for what fit I should wear going into this game since it had big playoff implications, and you guys delivered some good suggestions, and I ended up going with the red sleeve on my non-dominant arm and black tights. And honestly, I think it looked pretty smooth, so thanks N for the suggestion. This game, I wasn't going to be messing around. I had taken what happened last week personally, and I knew I couldn't let my team down like that again. Also, if I wanted a chance at being seen by anybody, the only 0.001% of a chance of that happening in this league was going to be in the championship. So punt 1 comes around, and I can tell immediately by body language and scheme, they're not rushing. But just in case, I still try to go my regular speed. The snap had come in a bit low, so I didn't get under it that much, but it was still around a 50-yard punt in the air, and it only had 4 seconds of hang, so that's why there was a bit of a return, so I knew I had to get more beneath the ball in the future. Also, a common theme for this video was me forgetting to turn my helmet cam on, so I only got about 3 punts in the first-person view, which is a bit annoying, but it is what it is. It didn't matter much because a few plays later and I found myself on the field again. This time we were kind of in that awkward gray zone, so I didn't want to put everything into the ball. In hindsight, I should have gone for a sky punt. I hit a really clean 48-yard punt, but the returner caught it in stride and was able to take it across the 20, so not too hot for the brand. Our game of attrition was paying off though. They had no punter, so we were able to get the ball back in great field position, march down a couple plays later, and score at the start of the second quarter. They didn't do too much after getting the ball back, eventually punting it to us where we started to click offensively. We were driving down the field and picking up first downs, and even got to the opposing 30-yard line. Little did I know though that I was going to be trotting back out there with a ball on the plus 28, forced to punt again. Now, it may not have looked like it, but I put as little as I could into that punt. I just don't practice from that very often, since even at a high school level, you'd likely be attempting a 45-yard field goal before you'd be punting it. So it was just a weird situation to be in, but yeah, I probably should have just tried to put it out of bounds. Ironically enough, the first play of that drive though, they threw a pick six, so in the end, I guess it didn't really matter too much as we took a 2-score lead going into half. I was able to really get warmed up again at halftime, so I was feeling good when my next punt of the half came around.
Left, 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 left.
A nice 50-yard, 4.7 hang punt that was fielded inside the 10-yard line. Can't be mad about that. It did suck that I felt like I had to keep pulling my punches on these punts because of the lack of the field in front of me, but this was one of the few balls that felt really clean coming off my foot. It wasn't too long again though before I found myself punting, this time from the positive 40-yard line. I tried to put a little backspin on it, but gosh, I just couldn't seem to get the ball to bounce my way, which was a common theme this game, despite it hitting inside the 5. It was another touchback. My final punt though came at the start of the fourth. 2 backspin punts not going my way. I wanted to try something new, and the ball was on the positive 42, so I was going to try to sky it high and short.
Oh, get the ball! I told you I was gonna put it up there.
It went almost perfectly. 40 yards on the dot, 4.96 seconds of hang, but it checks ever so slightly forward since nobody on my team caught it, with it bouncing just inside the goal line. The game ended shortly after with a final score of 18-6, and just like that, we had made the playoffs. I was also able to add a couple plays to the tape too. I got a nice 48 4.3. Another booming 54.7. And a 4.9 40-yard pooch punt. All added to the tape as we inch ever so closer from Joe Schmo to pro.
Get to the house.
Good game, man. Good game, man. Good game, man.
I'm with everything, boy. I'm ready to
Not next to me, and not. As long as you're standing right there, we are on nothing. We are on walking down and high-fiving people.